Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier with the Valentine's Day edition of the DRFBets Race of the Day. And I couldn't think of anything more romantic than 3-year-old maidens going 5.5 furlongs at Santa Anita under the beautiful San Gabriel Mountains. And then I realized there might be something more romantic, a Valentine's Day gift. A DRFBets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com, deposit $50, and bet with your sweetheart $200 in a return. Here's the field of 3-year-old maidens going 5.5 furlongs. You can access free formulator past performances for the race of the day on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We'll take the field in post position order. And Matt, this race is a guessing game. You've got a lot of first-time starters, so the goal here is to give the good folks at home as much information as possible to make an intelligent decision. We'll begin with the number 1, High Five, one of the few experienced runners in this race. This horse did not do much in his debut, but now returns with Lasix off of a lengthy layoff. He might need one off the bench for Vladimir Serin.
Yeah, there's some other things that are a little bit difficult for this one to encounter. Breaking down on the inside, going 5.5, you have to imagine it's going to be an all-out sprint from jump. I know that sounds a little bit silly because it is a sprint race, but you get the gist here. And coming off of such a long layoff, there's a part of me that wonders, is this going to be treated almost as a first-time starter, because this is the first time in the barn for Serin, first time Lasix, first time Southern California. There's a lot of things going against this one, but again, you know what? There's some things that you could consider if you want to use this one at a big number.
Number 2 is Of Good Report. This horse making his second start off the long layoff for Doug O'Neill, and he was in a tough spot last time out. He was in against Desmond, who came back to break my heart when finishing second by a nostril in the San Vicente, popping a 94 Beyer speed figure. That was a decent enough effort, I thought, from Of Good Report. He can move forward with his second start with that race under his belt, and he's switching to Rafael Bejarano. I don't think he should be 20 to 1 on the morning line.
I was going to say the price seems a little bit silly. I think he should probably be somewhere in that 10 or 12 to 1 range. The question now becomes, if you look at him, forget about all the first-time starters. Stretford End is the horse that has the experience and has the sort of figures at this point. Do you think Of Good Report can jump up into the high 70, low 80 range to really be considered a win contender?
Number 3 is Call You Tomorrow. This is a first-time starter for Redham Racing, Ben Cecil, a $10,000 weanling who sold up for $75,000 last year at 2 after breezing a furlong in 10 and 3 by Arch, 13% winners with older debut runners. This dam was a multiple stakes winning dirt sprinter that also won the career debut. She's foaled 3 winners from as many runners. I don't see a lot of black type in the pedigree, but this colt has license to be fast.
I was going to say, you brought up all the pieces about the pedigree, and it's always heartening to see a horse that they pay a considerable amount more than what the sire stands for. That's usually a good sign in the grand scheme of things. Cecil, I know the raw numbers suggest that the first out of the box runners are usually good to go, and you can look at a giant ROI over the past 6 starters. There's a part of me that looks at it and says, I kind of want to see one before we actually go here. But again, if you're looking at a giant price, I'm not going to talk anybody off.
Trainer Peter Miller has entered 3 first-time starters in this race. We'll begin with the 4, Grit and Curiosity, a $77,000 yearling by Macho Uno, who gets 14% winners with older debut runners. Now, the dam was multiple stakes placed on the turf, and she's a half to one of my favorites. Bird is the word. Also multiple stakes placed on the turf. This is the colt's first foal. I see grass and distance here.
I was going to say, this feels like it could be nothing more than a starting off point. You do like that gate drill most recently, 47 seconds flat, but at the same time, again, and you got to kind of sift through that with a lot of these first-time starter races. 5.5 furlongs, more likely than not, this horse is going to want 2 turns on grass. This is probably nothing more than let's just get him used to the afternoon and get him ready to go next time long on turf.
Possibly the horse with the best pedigree in the race is up next. That's the number 5, Duchamp. This is a homebred for the Mosses by Curlin, 17% winners with older debut runners. While the dam Tarlo did win her career debut sprinting, she was a Grade 1 stakes winner going 1 mile and an eighth on the dirt. She has already foaled a stakes-placed miler named Katie's Garden. John Sheriffs doesn't exactly have him ready to go first time out most of the time. This horse has a nice pedigree, though, perhaps one to follow when he stretches out.
Yeah, again, another one that it feels like additional ground is going to be needed for his best anyway. I took a look at the replay or the video of his workout. It wasn't spectacular. He was down on the inside. He finished okay enough, but again, it feels like, it's one thing to work out going 5/8 of a mile, when realistically you probably want to go 8.5, 9 furlongs on a different surface potentially. He is the kind of horse that I want to see stretched out.
Course to beats the 6 Stretford End. He's run 3 times, solid buyers each and every time, 84, 80, 77. He's burned some money in his last 2 races, however, losing at odds on both times. And I have to admit, I was a little bit disappointed in his last race at Del Mar. He was tracking 4 wide on the backstretch, loomed boldly with a 3 wide bid on the turn, and I thought he had every shot to win it in mid-stretch. Perhaps he hung a little bit. That field was decent. The winner of that race, that Baffert horse, was entered in the Risen Star. Apparently, he's not going to go to that race. I'm assuming he's turning back to 5.5, barring a quick first, or this one's on ascend under Rosario.
Yeah, I think we're kind of at the point now where, look, they've tried a couple different things with him. I can understand anyone that says, you know what, he is a bit of a money burner at this point, and we want to go and look for a fresh face. He has run fast enough at this point. All 3 of those races came as a 2-year-old. You brought up Kingley. The 5th place finisher of that race was Nolo Contesto, who would have been one of the favorites in that 2-turn race 2 weeks ago out at Santa Anita. He was a next out winner with an 84. And then you look and see, he ran into Improbable. He was a neck behind Improbable in his career debut. There was just a part of me that says, one of these first-time starters is probably going to need to run a pretty big race if they're going to upend this horse.
Of the firsters, I'm interested in the 7 Bump Bailey, another one going out for Peter Miller, $90,000 weanling, went up to 175 as a yearling, went up to 190 as a 2-year-old after breezing a furlong in 10-1. This one's by Fed Biz, only 1 for 5 with older debut runners. He's done some good work, though, with his 2-year-olds. He's a relatively young stallion. This is the first foal from an unraced half-sister to Nicole H., who is a graded stakes-winning dirt sprinter and a multiple stakes place dirt sprinter as well. I kind of like this horse's pedigree for speed. I like the fact that he's sold up each and every time. I did a little bit of research. Fed Biz, when crossed with Sharp Humor mares. You've got Zenden, won his first 2 starts and just ran second in the Swale. So to me, this is a speed-on-speed pedigree. I think Bump Bailey will show speed in this spot.
Yeah, again, particularly going back to that February 8th work, the half mile out of the gate in 47. Usually I want to see that kind of, especially these shorter distances, 5.5 furlongs, this thing's over in the blink of an eye. If you don't break alertly or you're not good out of the gate, that could potentially put you behind the 8 ball. But also at the same time, I like the fact that 2 works back, you've got a 3/4 work. He's already worked at a distance longer than what the distance of this race is actually going to be. For me, that's always an important thing with the firsters. If you're looking for a live one, a win contender, I wouldn't talk anybody off this.
Big price tag for the 8, Agonis, first-time starter going out for Jerry Hollendorf, for a $110,000 weanling who sold all the way up for $750,000 as a yearling. He is by Animal Kingdom, 14% winners with older debut runners. Unraced Dams fold a couple of winners. She is a half to Indian Firewater, a graded stakes winner. But again, I see this pedigree, I think distance.
To be honest, this might be the horse that I'm most intrigued with going forward. I just don't know about this race here on Thursday. The distance doesn't seem like it's ideal. You see those 3 consecutive 6 furlong workouts. You've got a bullet out of the gate in that most recent one at Los Al. I agree with you. And the other thing, too, to keep in mind, I agree with distance, but I could see him working either way, whether it's turf or dirt. At the end of the day, though, 2 turns, I think, is what he's going to want.
Meadway is the number 9 and $11,500 buyback as a yearling. He's by Tisnow, 14% winner with older debut runners. Dam won 4 route races. She's foaled 3 winners from as many runners. Meadway is a half to a multiple stakes-placed runner in Puerto Rico. The Dam's a half to a stakes-placed turf sprinter. I just have a feeling this colt's caught a tough spot for his debut.
Again, this is one of those instances, we talked about it a little bit with the Wednesday race, for some of those horses coming back off long layoffs. This just feels like a very difficult spot. I know you want to look for that maiden race. You're good. You got it in the condition book. You fire away, and then you look and see all these other big pedigrees, and you see a horse like Stretford End show up. Just seems like it's a tall task.
Bowl of Spaghetti, the number 10, the 3rd Miller first-time starter. This horse has at least shown a little bit of speed, Matt. $25,000 yearling, sold up for $50,000 last year after breezing a 1/4 mile in 21-2. The Stay Thirsties do pretty well as older debut runners. He clicks at 18% with them. The Dam was a sprint winner. The second Dam was stakes placed on the turf. Bowl of Spaghetti attracts Flavia and Pratt. I see 4-1 on the morning line for this horse, though, and boy, I'd need a little more.
Yeah, I agree with you that he doesn't really do anything for me, but I think those last two things that you alluded to, usually when there's a horse on the morning line that takes or is made a short price, you got to take notice, usually. And the fact that Flavian Pratt is taking them out here first out of the box for a pedigree that at face value is just a little bit on the pedestrian side. It doesn't seem like you're going to have potential real big things going forward, but at the end of the day, you never know. The pedigree game is truly just a kind of a guessing game, an educated guess. To me, he's the kind of horse where I wouldn't be surprised at all if he ran really well here first out of the box. I just wouldn't be betting him at 4-1.
Washington-bred Charmer John completes this field. He sold for 36 times the stud fee of his stallion. He's tops. He's a half to a couple of stakes-placed runners up at Emerald Downs. The Dam is a full sister to Best Judgment, who is the champion 2-year-old filly in Washington State a few years ago. He's tops wins with 16% of older debut runners. And you look at these works, they're fast. Sub 1 minute works for 5 furlongs. Now he's going to really have to hustle from this outside post position going 5.5. But I have a feeling this horse might be quick out of the gate. Mark Glatt, though, not known for success first time out.
Glatt was the thing that kind of turned me off with this horse. I like Mark Glatt. I think he's a very good trainer. Just with the firsters, this isn't really what his game is. He usually takes 1 or 2 to get him ready for whatever their next race is and eventually graduate. But you bring it up, the big workouts that you've got there with the speed, but also I don't think it's talked about enough. Breaking from the far outside in a career debut, I know a lot of people initially look at it and go, oh, wow, you're going to be wide a little bit. At the end of the day, if there's nobody breaking just to your outside, you got a little bit of leeway. I don't think that's ever a bad spot for a firster. Even if it's breaking from post 11, you're probably going to give up a little bit of ground, but I'd rather have that and not have to deal with anything down on the inside.
Pick time for the 8th race at Santa Anita on Valentine's Day. Listen, Stretford ends the horse to beat. If he runs anywhere between his 77 and 84 buyer, that's going to be good enough for the par at this level. You mentioned the second to Improbable in his debut.
Yeah, again, it's kind of a Captain Obvious pick. It's nothing too interesting, but at the end of the day, I just think that the sort of experience edge that he has in this race, I picked him first over the number 8, Agonis. He's the one that I'm actually most intrigued with going forward. I went 6-8, 10-7.
I like Bump Bailey's speed pedigree for Peter Miller. Like the fact that he's sold up in each of his 3 auctions. Curious to see what kind of price we get. Drayden Van Dyke and Miller have done well over the past year or so as a combination. Maybe this horse will offer some value. 8-1 on the morning line. I'll go 7-6-3-11 in race number 8 at the Great Race Place on Valentine's Day. You can bet the card with the DRFBets account. Easy sign up at bets.drf.com. DRFBets, ready, set, bet. Approximate post time for race number 8 at Santa Anita on Thursday, 4 o'clock Pacific. Good luck.